Hello and welcome to ESG Talk. Boy, do we have a treat for you today. Our next guest, Barjouth Aguilar, is a phenomenal innovator who started her career as an intern and has built ESG over the last 11 years for Flex. She is going to tell us today a little bit about how we build a global presence with local power, tackling complex issues like the supply chain, which is Flex's superpower, as well as a little bit about her own journey. She's located and coming to us today from Guadalajara, a place that's near and dear to my heart. We actually talked about one of the first international partnerships that I formed was with where she got her master's degree. And so we are delighted to have you. We met each other at a conference and knew that this would be a perfect piece. So Barjouth, welcome to the show. So glad to see you again.
Thank you, Mandi. I'm so happy to be part of this podcast that I am already a fan, and I've been learning so much on this.
Your journey is so remarkable because you really got to build this program from the ground up all the way to what it is today, working with your phenomenal CEO. Tell our listeners, what was it like to start as an intern over 11 years ago and then be standing here today?
Wow, it has been an amazing journey. Not easy at all. So if I can share something, it's that sometimes things take time, effort, energy, and thousands of no's. But at the end of the day, we know where we want to go and then follow that dream. I visited Flex in Guadalajara when I was at college. So I was there and I was so impressed of what we do now and all that. And I decided to be part of that company. So it was like a big dream when I was at college. And I say, I will be on this company one day. So that was my dream. So when I had that opportunity, the company opened a position for an intern to start in the corporate environmental responsibility team. So that time I was the employee number 3rd in the team. And it was like my big opportunity to learn because I originally studied international business, but I have this passion for environment, for social causes, and for Flex, and it's when I started there and start from since the beginning, creating this team because I was like the employee number 3rd. And then creating the stuff like trainings, documents, even how we will collect data. I started in Excel, create columns, create all of that. At that time was like a titanic work, but I was so proud of every step that we create for this big journey. 1 year later, we got the social piece. So it's when we start integrating environmental and social. And then during my journey, I got the foundation. And then we have been evolving some from different names and cross and sustainability, global citizenship. Right now we are sustainability / ESG because we use both terms. It depends on our audience, but definitely it's something that I am very passionate about it. And I've been learning a lot about this topic at Flex.
And to give our audience an idea of that growth, not only in your career, the company growth, you have today over 26 billion in diverse global manufacturing solution provider, over 170,000 employees, and over 1,000 customers spanning multiple industries as you dive into the complex challenges related to supply chain, which is a huge part of ESG. And we haven't really even had an opportunity as we think about the pandemic and all of these other pieces that have really heightened this issue. So Flex is diving in a really interesting time as they partner with companies and your employees. Tell us how you have shaped this idea of global presence with local power and driving results, not only for yourself, your customers.
Yeah, I think it is very great when we see Flex on this size and dimension and as well this global presence because it's at the same time it's complex. So it's when we see sustainability ESG with a holistic view. So it's where we see that we cannot achieve things just by ourselves. So definitely it's a combination of different stakeholders on how we would be able to achieve it. So we designed this new sustainability strategy last year, and it is tied to the new company strategy, vision, and mission. So everything is interconnected. It is not a separated program. It's part of our DNA. It's part of how we lived in the company. So with that in mind is how we designed our goals, but also analyzing, and probably the audience have heard about the materiality assessment, that it's key on how we are integrating all these elements, considering the different stakeholders. For sure, we have customers, we have our investors, we have our employees, we have our suppliers. So what is important for all of them? What is important internally and externally, and then connect all these dots. So based on that is how we design this global strategy. But definitely, other important thing is what is happening in each of our facilities. What is happening in each of our locations. And as you mentioned, we have more than 100 locations all over the world. So here's the challenge. Once we design this global strategy, and we know that we are so focused on climate action, on decent work and economic growth, or responsible consumption and production, good health and well-being, 4 of the SDGs that we are aligned with. So on that, it's okay. So let's analyze what is happening locally, what we can do and what we can integrate on that. That it's in our facilities, but also with our suppliers. We have suppliers all over the world. So we need to be very sensitive where they are now on this ESG journey and how we can share what we have been learning all these years. So it has been very interesting for us and also with our customers, because part of our strategy and goals is how we are helping them to achieve their own goals. So I always say this analogy that we are in the middle of this sandwich. When we help our customers and partner with them, so together we achieve the goals, but also we partner with our suppliers because they are key to be able to achieve these goals. So it's this, and this is something that I love from ESG on all this world, is that everything is interconnected. And if we want to achieve something, we need to create this synergy and be able to go to the same direction.
And I love that you talked about when you move into the local piece, it's really about meeting countries, locations, where they are. It's uncovering what's working there. And you might find something working in a country that maybe it would apply to another location, or you might find that, in fact, there's some really great work already happening, and all you're doing is building the sandwich around it to support the incredible work that's happening on the ground. Now, Flex has appointed a new CEO in 2019. Share how that has really shaped the future direction of the foundation and environment, social, and governance for your organization.
Yeah, well, it has been key. Definitely Revathi Advaiti, who is our I would say new, but it's not new because it's from 2019. So it's our CEO. And, she has this commitment from to do the right thing always and integrate sustainability in every part of the process. So she has been key and instrumental on all these, because we have been designing the program for years, but as this is part of her own agenda at the business, but also her personal agenda on how we can create and contribute to have a better world. So right now we have seen that sustainability is part of her goals. It's part of even the CEO compensation bonus and also the ELT. So this is key in all the companies when we have the opportunity to have our ELT, the CEO, the board of directors involved in these topics, help us to promote and have these integrated in the DNA of the company.
What an incredible example. I think that builds so nicely on our previous episode with Beth Wood from Principal Financial Group. She is the chair of their Environment, Social, and Governance Committee and their executive representative for their work. And she talked about that alignment on the C-suite. And this really helps our listeners and others think about when you have that CEO connection and that build of compensation, what does that do for the rest of the team to come together and move forward? So I think we're going to see some more interesting ideas or notions for how CEO compensation is going to connect to sustainability and where boards and others begin to look at the executive accountability. Thank you so much for sharing that example. Your company was also a pioneer in this idea of financial linked ESG structures. And I'm wondering if you could share a little bit more about that example, how that came to be, what were the metrics, and how did that work being a new pioneer in this idea of finance linked to ESG?
That is a great question. At the end of the day, as we mentioned, sustainability or ESG ties different areas in the company, including finance. So for us, it is key to have all this support, but also partnership with the finance team. And once we start talking about the opportunities that we have, considering the solid program that we have in place, or goals, the progress that we are demonstrating, or even to have all this third-party verification for data, give us the opportunity to analyze what we can do additional to the right thing to do, and how we can integrate these elements as part of the business and how we continue moving on that. So we partner with the treasury team, and then we analyze that a couple of these goals that we have by 2030 could be part of this linked loan. So it was an interesting process on this back and forth and analyze and see how we can integrate this in the financial aspect. And we got this first ESG linked loan in the tech industry in the States. So we are super proud of that. Having this opportunity to be recognized to do the right thing, it's something interesting that we got and that we feel proud about that, and it start this journey for the rest of the industry.
Yeah, and we're seeing CFOs around the globe through the CFOs for the UN SDGs with the UN Global Compact coming together around this notion of sustainable finance. So as we head into 2023, it'll be an interesting year to watch as Flex was such an innovator in how the world could think about finance and environment, social governance, linking to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. I think it's going to be a fascinating ride next year to watch and see what the market will bring. The other issue in the market that I think our listeners are thinking about is the supply chain, which this is where you do great work with your customers. What are some of the themes you are learning about the supply chain that may be relevant to those listening to the show and trying to tackle it next year?
Yeah, with our supply chain as Flex is complex. And at the same time, we have been learning a lot that some of them are so mature on this journey, some of them are learning. So for us, it has been very interesting to learn where they are now and also share what we have been learning all these years. So with our chief of procurement, she has been assigned a team where we work with them so closely on share all of this knowledge, and as well, they are working so hard with them, even partnering with CDP on how we are sharing all this knowledge to them and asking them, and you will see that, or the audience can see that in the flex.com in sustainability, where what we have related with our supply chain goal, we are partnering with our preferred suppliers so they can have their own greenhouse gas emission reduction target. So with that in mind, I'm partnering with CDP. We are working with them to capture this data and understand better where they are. So it's a solid team working closely with them. We are achieving really great progress in this first year. And even we received the recognition from CDP for being suppliers on this supplier leadership recognition on what we are doing with them and how we are continuing improving year over year on this program.
I think I want to call out two P's that I heard that are so fundamental for individuals thinking of this topic. Partnership. Thinking about you don't have to go at it alone. You pulled in CDP. We're seeing some others think about this idea of like, how do we pull in others to help move people along the journey? And then the second part the second P that's so key is pilot. I can't stress it enough. I think people look at the supply chain and they want to try to tackle the entire thing. And some of the most successful learnings have come from what you just articulated is you do a year of partnership, you explore with a segment, you take your time and you learn, and then you start to scale and grow to the rest of your portfolio. And look at those who are the most significant contributors to your greenhouse gas emissions. I know we did that for ourselves at Workiva, was we didn't try to attack everybody because not everybody would be a high emission supplier. So we have to think about those that are really the most relevant to the business. Barjouth, thank you so much for talking about the supply chain. Now, here's something interesting as manufacturing tries to tackle environment, social, and governance. There's a lot there to consider, and you have a manufacturing part of your industry as well. Tell us, what are you learning being a manufacturer trying to tackle this issue?
Thank you, Mandi. Yeah, I think it's fascinating because it's all production, but also we have 6 business units. So we notice that probably the needs from lifestyle, automotive, industrial, CEC, to mention few of them, are different. So it's understand and have this close communication with their customers and see how we can integrate this in our big strategy. So part of the strategy, for sure, we have how we can reduce the scope 1 and 2 greenhouse gas emissions in all the factories, but also about waste, water. But in the S side, how we can be sure that we have strong programs for our diversity, equity, and inclusion, including our labor practices, mental health, training, or on the governance side, working so close on the ethics in all the factories where we have presence, or also on our governance structure. Where we have been talking about this, that it is really into the board of directors agenda, or CEO, ELT, but also on the operational side, how we partner so close with each of the general managers in the facilities, but also we design the sustainability network in each of our factories, where we have the sustainability lead, the HR rep, community rep, EH&S people. So all of them together help us to live sustainability in each of our locations. So it's part of how we integrate all of that as part of our governance structure and continue working with all the sustainability program as part of our DNA.
I love seeing that as a part of your DNA. And I would add to that, it's very dynamic how you have approached it, and looking at the governance structure all the way from the CEO down to what does it look like, boots on the ground, getting feedback from our employees, pulling together that local governance structure so that it can be a full feedback loop to help inform your go-forward strategy. If you have suggestions of other innovators we should have on this show in season 2, remember, you help divide and decide who are going to be our next guest. So please send us over LinkedIn or at ESG Talk on Twitter any of your recommendations as we shape the next season just for you. We'll talk real soon.